In a small, peaceful village, nestled between rolling green hills, lived a humble woman named Sarah and her young son, Sam. Life had never been easy for them. Sarah worked tirelessly as a seamstress, stitching clothes for the villagers in exchange for just enough to afford food and shelter. Despite their struggles, she always had a warm smile and a heart full of gratitude. She taught Sam that wealth wasn't measured by gold or silver but by kindness, honesty, and perseverance. Sam, though young, understood their hardships. He saw how his mother's hands grew rough from hours of sewing, yet she never complained. Instead, she encouraged him to study hard, dream big, and always remain humble. "Success is not about riches, my son," she often said. "It's about how you treat people and the good you leave behind." One afternoon, as Sarah sat outside her small cottage sewing a dress for a villager, a grand carriage rolled into the village. It was pulled by strong black horses, and inside sat Mr. Blackwell, the wealthiest man in the region. He owned vast lands, multiple businesses, and a mansion that towered over the village. He was known not for his generosity, but for his arrogance and love of wealth. As he passed Sarah's cottage, he pulled the reins and stopped. His sharp eyes scanned the tiny home, the worn-out furniture visible through the open door, and the simple meal placed on the wooden table. He then glanced at Sarah, bent over her work, and Sam playing with pebbles nearby. A smirk curled his lips. "What a miserable life," Mr. Blackwell scoffed, stepping down from his carriage. "You work so hard for so little, Sarah. And that boy of yours, he'll grow up just as poor and insignificant as you." Sam's small fists clenched at the man's cruel words, but before he could speak, Sarah placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. She met Mr. Blackwell's gaze with calm confidence and said, "A person's worth is not measured by his wealth, Mr. Blackwell, but by his heart and deeds." The rich man laughed. "Heart and deeds? Those won't put food on your table. Remember my words, boy," he said, looking at Sam. "Hard work is for fools. Only money brings power and respect." With that, he climbed back into his carriage and rode away, leaving behind the sound of his mocking laughter. That night, as Sam sat beside his mother, he whispered, "Mother, will we always be poor?" Sarah brushed his hair gently and smiled. "No, my son. You have something more valuable than gold: wisdom, kindness, and a strong spirit. Keep those, and you will never be truly poor." Years passed, and Sam held on to his mother's teachings. He worked harder in school, excelling in his studies, and earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. He studied business and economics, determined to create a life of dignity and respect. Though he faced many challenges, he never let hardship break his spirit. After graduating, he started his own business. Unlike Mr. Blackwell, he built his success with honesty and fairness, treating his employees with kindness and respect. His business flourished, and soon, he became one of the most influential entrepreneurs in the country. Meanwhile, Mr. Blackwell, who had spent years chasing wealth without compassion, faced a downfall. His reckless investments, greed, and lack of care for others led to his empire crumbling. One by one, he lost his businesses, and his once grand mansion was now empty. His so-called friends abandoned him when his money ran out, and he found himself alone, desperate, and struggling. One day, dressed in old, tattered clothes, Mr. Blackwell wandered into the city, seeking help. He walked past towering office buildings, his once proud shoulders now hunched with defeat. Finally, he arrived at a magnificent company headquarters, hoping for assistance. As he stepped inside, he was escorted into the CEO's office. Seated behind the grand desk was a confident, well-dressed man. Mr. Blackwell's eyes widened in shock. It was Sam. "Sam," he gasped, barely recognizing the young boy he had once mocked. Sam stood up and smiled warmly. "Mr. Blackwell. It has been a long time." Shame washed over the older man. I have fallen on hard times," he admitted. "I never imagined I would be in this position." He lowered his gaze, unable to meet Sam's eyes. I was wrong about everything. I thought wealth was all that mattered, but when my money disappeared, so did everyone around me. Sam nodded, remembering his mother's words. True wealth isn't about money, Mr. Blackwell. It's about integrity, kindness, and the impact we have on others. That's what my mother taught me. Mr. Blackwell swallowed hard, his eyes filled with regret. He had spent his life chasing riches but had never built anything truly meaningful. Sam continued, but everyone deserves a second chance. He reached out and offered Mr. Blackwell a job in his company, not out of pity, but to teach him what real success meant. The old man, humbled and grateful, accepted. Over time, he learned the values he had once dismissed: respect, generosity, and the importance of treating people with kindness. As for Sam, he continued to build his legacy, not just through his business, but through the lives he touched. He never forgot the little cottage where he had grown up, the sacrifices his mother had made, and the lesson that had shaped his journey: wealth is temporary, but a good heart lasts forever.